Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. I've got Ganesh with me, and we're going to be talking about the metaverse, which is obviously a very hot topic today. But before we dive into the questions that I've got for you, can you give everybody a real quick introduction?
Sure. No, thank you, Emma, for inviting me to the show. So Ganesh Padmanabhan, I live here in Austin, Texas, where we've never had COVID. Just joking. We were joking about it before. So my background, I'm an engineer turned entrepreneur, worked in big tech for 15 years of my career, started a few companies in data and AI, and have been diving really deep into the metaverse, the Web3 as an investor, and as my next entrepreneurial journey. So very excited to be here, and interested to would love to actually share some thoughts around this topic.
Well, thank you so much for joining me again. And to get us started, I usually like to kind of have a little bit of a level setting question just to make sure we're all talking about the same definition for things. So to get us started, can you give us your definition of what the metaverse is?
For sure. Emma, first off, I don't think there is one definition of the metaverse. It's literally it's one of those concepts that in general, so there's a lot of hype, a lot of noise, everybody's talking about it, which is great, which also creates multiple narratives on the same topic. But the more important aspect of the metaverse is going to be, and you'll find out when my definition will tell you, it's very personal to what you want that metaverse to be, what your metaverse to be. So a metaverse is just the simplest way to think about it. It's the next evolution of the internet, right? Where Internet 1.0 was all about just a broadcast medium where you put up a web page, people can view what is in there, and you can communicate one way. Web 2.0 was this whole notion of a bi-directional communication where you had email, you had social networks, and so forth, right? Web 3, and I don't want to go into Web 3, which is a separate topic than the metaverse, but there's a technology momentum happening called Web 3, which is an important element of as a building block to build out this metaverse vision. But the metaverse is the next evolution where you're trying to actually bring in presence more than just staring at a screen and talking about it or typing an email. Like, how do you really bring things that we love in the physical world into the digital world? And the reason it's relevant right now is people are beginning to spend more time online than they are spending offline, in person, in reality, in real world, right? So the lines between where do you really optimize for the human experience is blurring. It was always about like, hey, just walk into a nice little showroom, the Apple store, if you look at it, the experience that you get. Well, the metaverse provides you the opportunity for organizations to give that same kind of a feel, that experience, that acceleration, that human element that you would get in the physical world in the digital world. So the metaverse is, to me, a concept in time where people will start spending more time online than offline. The metaverse is very personal because it is all about your experience as an individual. And the silver lining here is also the fact that the metaverse has the opportunity to make the internet more personable and more personal to you as an individual. And one last thing I would say is the reason it's relevant is there is a lot. It just didn't spring up one fine day, right? It has been decades of evolution and decades of progress on different building block technologies that has got us to this point.
I'm glad you brought up that idea of that evolution, because I think that's a really important part of the conversation. Is it's not just like all of a sudden like, oh, the metaverse is here and now we're living in our computers and our headsets. It's a slow build of what's been going on for decades. So knowing that, like you mentioned, there's lots of different definitions, there's lots of chatter about the idea of the metaverse. I want to switch a little bit to talking about what do you view as some of the hype or kind of just excitement that's surrounding this idea versus what is reality and kind of rooted in where we are within that evolution today?
No, for sure, Emma, you're so right with this. It is anything but a revolution. It's an evolution more than anything, right? But that said, even revolutions start with like slow activity that happens over a long period of time until it gets to a point where all the different other criteria is met, and then it just blows off top, right? And that's exactly what's happening in the metaverse right now, or in this notion of the metaverse. Now, metaverse is not a new concept, right? The things that really led to, that are real, that are, that led to the hype, and I'll call out some things that are the hype too, are things like improvements in like online bandwidth, having 5G connectivity. You can now experience, like, do you remember the days when we used to do Skype calls, and half the time it was grainy screens and you're waiting for the other person to speak, waiting for the echo to drop and then start speaking? We don't have that anymore. Technology has progressed, networks and bandwidths have progressed. Our optimization techniques using AI and technology has really progressed to allow a much more natural experience online. The virtual reality, right? I mean, I think I want to say about 6 or 7 years ago, I wanted to start a company in virtual reality. I thought VR is going to change the world, and here we are today, still trying to figure out how do we find the glasses that'll fit for AR, or even like something that we don't have to lug around a whole big computer on our backs. Right now, Oculus has made that possible. So virtual reality is actually really, I think it's one of the building block technologies like AI, like the bandwidth, like the internet, that's enabling this evolution, right? Blockchain and Web3, the whole notion, I think the biggest thing that happened since 2020, one, everybody went online. It was an irrevocable thing to happen thanks to COVID-19. Decades of digital transformation for organizations and individuals in a matter of months, right? So that really was the impetus that put this topic out in the forefront, saying online is important. Online is more than just a storefront or a web store or a catalog. I have to. We're going to live online. We're going to actually be corresponding. We're going to be doing work, communicating with people online. How do you make that experience a lot more richer? So those are some of the things that really made it happen. Blockchain, because of the Bitcoin 4-year cycles and the evolution of how like everybody's looking at crypto right now, also gave rise to or shined the focus on the building blocks of on crypto, which is Web3 stack, like technologies that allow you to like decentralization. How do you have a public distributed database that nobody owns, but yet everybody you need consensus to go update? How do you make sure that you shift the trust from individuals within organizations to software online governed and managed by communities? So those are some of the building blocks that are really making this happen. Now, coming to your question, what's real, what's hype, and where we are today, I think a lot what is happening today is what I would think of as the wave one of the metaverse, right? And I think some people will argue that wave one started with Oculus Rift and HTC Vive about 6 to 7 years ago. But this is when it's coming to play, right? 6 years ago, when Oculus was launched, there wasn't enough content for you to experience on that headset. Plus, you had to also carry a computer on your back or have tethered to a computer. You don't need any of that anymore. You have a pretty natural experience with Oculus. I love playing. I grew up playing cricket. I play. There is an IB cricket app or a game on Oculus. Oculus 2. It's amazing. It's almost like playing real cricket, which they also solve the haptics problem. But anyway, so one of the big things what is real? So the wave one of the metaverse, what we're having right now is we're building all these virtual worlds that'll really augment your experience that you're already doing in the physical world. That's what's happening today. I'll give you a few examples to think about. Number one, I'm an investor, a proud investor in a company called Superworld, but there are other companies like Decentralized Land, Decentraland, and a ton of others who are creating, virtual real estate in the digital world that you can own. You can be a part of community. You can correspond. You can have neighbors. You can design a lifestyle. And the origin of this came from gaming, right? Where you have gaming worlds and stuff like that. So that's one area where I think it's very real. Those are all there, but those are individual, localized online communities with a really nice, virtual experience or a virtual world mapped. So that part is real. Augmented reality, wherein you're mixing the virtual world with your physical world where you are, we're still away from it. And I think the big moment there is going to be the big moment we're all waiting for is going to be hardware and optimization, right? You can't wear the Magic Leap funky looking glasses and walk around. It just doesn't work, right? So you need form factors, you need devices that'll actually really make it easy. Now, we will find out that like the Pokemon Go game, it'll come on our phones. So you can just experience the real world and mix it with the virtual world through photographs and things that we do, but also by encouraging or creating that connection of experience between physical and virtual world. That's going to happen in mostly, it's real now, but I think it's going to get a lot better very soon. What is not real right now is all this notion of hey, you have the metaverse that just takes over. Half the things we saw in Zuckerberg's presentation on introducing Facebook as Meta is not real yet, but those are very possible. The building blocks exist, and there is a lot of engineers and a lot of smart people working on it today to make that a reality, right? So what's not real? I mean, if you say I'm going to have for businesses, for example, you can have an online store that people can go to, look at your next collection. I think next week, New York Fashion Week, they're going to have a virtual world, version of the New York Fashion Week. Now they're not trying to replicate what's happening there, but then showing the clothing and the fashion that is happening in the virtual world in its digital form in a separate, isolated world. So just to share that experience, very real today, right? That's something that if you're a retailer or someone, you have to really embrace, right? But then things like using blockchain, cross metaverses, having one metaverse talk to another, going between, interoperability or portability across those different virtual worlds. None of that happens today. Let me pause right now. I think I gave a little bit of a larger overview here.
Great. So when you're talking about AR and some of those other components and how people are slowly starting to get their way in, my brain went to, we finished our basement, and if I wouldn't mess up my camera, I could show you some of the furniture that I placed in the room with AR. And there's small little bits and pieces of that are definitely a part of our reality. But yeah, you're right. We haven't reached that point where you can go completely live your life there within the metaverse the way that Facebook/Meta is presenting quite yet. But as we are building towards that reality and continuing through this evolution, you mentioned things like Fashion Week and retailers being prepared for this and making shifts. What advice do you have for organizations to, steps to start taking right now to be ready for the metaverse when it hits their industry, or maybe if they're in one of those more emerging industries today?
Another good question. I think to make it real, right? The why. I mean, first thing, you got to pay attention. So don't ignore this as a fad and Zuckerberg is talking BS, that kind of stuff. Social networks today is worth, trillions of dollars. And 10 years ago, people were still questioning what social networks are all about, right? Do we really have it? So this is another moment in time that you have to, as a business, pay attention, see how it relates to you. And there are three reasons why you should pay attention. Number one, people are spending more time online. So online experiences will almost, trump the offline experiences that we deliver. It's going to be more important. Your identity is going to be associated less with your logo and the shape of your building, and more about the online experience you deliver. Number two, developer momentum. If there is one leading indicator, and if you believe in technology diffusion as a disruptive innovation and technology diffusion theories, developer momentum, where are more and more people, young people, going to go build software or build technology in? And that's all in this metaverse, Web3, crypto kind of area. So there is a huge amount of focus here, and it's going to be really, really big. If you can dial back and go back to 1990s, and if you were in the camp thinking, is the web thing really going to work out? But if you had taken action, you could have been a Facebook or a Google. This is that moment for Web3, for the metaverse. And three, younger generation, right? Always another really good leading indicator is how do the Gen Zs and whatever comes after that, the COVID babies, right? How do they actually view the world? And you can see now that they view the world a lot differently, a lot more online centric, with the offline world being part of just kind of hanging off of the online extension of the online life, right? So like I said, the metaverse is a point in time where you spend more time online, and then the offline world becomes secondary to augment that experience, right? So what can you do as a business? So number one, pay attention, learn, educate yourself to see what's happening there. What's this? How will this affect you? And the way some frameworks to think about it is your customers. Are your customers like older generation people who are individual consumers who will not be interested? Then it may not be a huge thing. Although there might be some areas that you can really augment their experience in a virtual world. Older people just still get on Zoom calls to meet grandkids, for example. But so pay attention and really evaluate how does this affect your customer base, right? How is their world going to be different when people are spending more time online, where they're going to have or expect and experiences that are different than what they get online today. Number two is experiment. So learn, pay attention. Number two is experiment. And the experimentation doesn't have to be you have to set up a whole big virtual world for your company or for your organizations. But then start looking at, hey, can I pilot a study where I can give a very unique checkout experience when they're on my e-commerce site, or a virtual try-on experience for clothing if you're a retailer, or if you're a bank, an extension of what's the next evolution of a chatbot when you're having to have a complex conversation and you're talking to a mortgage agent, and you want someone, or a wealth manager who wants to have a conversation with you, and they need the insurance person, the life insurance person, the stockbroker, like 5 other groups that we're going to do. Instead of just doing a conference call, imagine that in a virtual world where you're having a conversation. I mean, take a lot of pages from Zuckerberg's presentation, right? How there's a conference room, everybody comes in, and then people are just communicating almost naturally in it, right? And then 3, I would say, is like start investing in the building blocks necessary to go make this happen. If you really do your number 1, which is do a lot of research and pay attention, you will notice that if you're not in AI yet, get into AI, because machine learning and machine-to-machine communication, the ability to actually deal with data and the explosion of data is going to be important, right? Blockchain or crypto, or rather incentive networks. How do you build more modern capabilities within your products? If it's an online product, can you? I'll give you another simple example. And I was shocked to actually find this. Stripe actually has a capability. They have banking as a service, so you can have an e-commerce site, and then you can have a bank embedded within your site without you having to do anything. You can issue a Visa card, you can have people have a checking account, you can actually have them transact money. If your product is, demands that, your product users demand that, think about those kind of evolutions, because the traditional way of actually building technologies to run business is evolving, and that's what this metaverse is all about. It's not just about like VR and fancy computing and digital presence and stuff. It's all about just reimagining how the online interactions and relationships will look like in the future, and how do you prepare for it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights and kind of break down this concept, because obviously it's something we're hearing a lot about, and I think it's really valuable for people to kind of take a step back and think through the evolution of it and maybe what they should be doing within their own organizations to get ready. Before we go, I want to make sure to tell everybody to make their way over to your LinkedIn account and check you out, as well as your own podcast, Stories in AI. They'll be able to find all the information there of how to get their hands on more conversations like this on your show. But thank you again for joining me, and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Of course. Thank you, Emma. Thanks for having me there. And do check out Stories in AI, and you'll see a lot more specific conversations around the metaverse there as well. So thanks so much for having me, Emma.
Yeah.
If you're looking for expert tips on how to get started with your transformation, or looking to hone in on your approach, make sure that you subscribe to our channel to catch our weekly Digital Transformation Talk series, where we interview experts from around the world on how to make it happen.